Okay, I believe we are live. Good morning. I'm John Casper with the Oshkosh Chamber, and welcome again to our weekly virtual town hall um, with chamber members. I know people are still joining us uh, online here. We have a good group. We have a great topic, a great speaker today. Jack Pelton, Chairman and CEO of the Experimental Aircraft Association, has joined us. We're really happy that Jack has been able to put some time aside for us to share his insights about the recent decision on AirVenture and discuss things moving forward. To remind everybody, the viewers and listeners are muted, so you can listen in. But we do encourage questions to come in. So if you want to use the the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen to submit a question. We will be taking those. I'll review those and ask those questions after Jack makes his comments. So, Jack will spend some time giving us some insight to that decision and what EA is doing moving forward. So, Jack, again, thank you very much for joining us, and I'd like to turn it over to you.
Great, John. I really appreciate the invitation to get to address the chamber. You guys are doing great work, and I've certainly enjoyed how through this separation, or whatever we're calling it now, that you've had a lot of great programs that people can take advantage of virtually. So keep up the good work there. I thought, and John and I talking about what's the topic that I should be addressing, I thought I would spend a few minutes, spend maybe 15, 20 minutes talking, and then of course open up to questions, but walk through the process that caused us to get to a point of having to cancel AirVenture Oshkosh 2020. And maybe just give you some of the background of what takes place over here at EA in getting up to the event. As many of you know, it's a significant international event that is very, very important to us as an organization, very critically important to aviation as a whole within the country, and then also is a very, very important to us locally in the community, and it draws people in from all over the world. We when March came about and we started into the lockdown mode, we reacted very quickly and were able to get all of our folks situated and equipped to be able to start working at home around March 21st when the stay-at-home order came. That caused us as a leadership team to begin meeting every morning at 8:30 to look at all of the signs and data and telltales as to where is this going and how is it going to play out against us having an event in July. The magic date for us was the month of May. And I say the magic date for us is the month of May, is that's when the buildup of significant numbers of volunteers from around the country relocate and set up stakes on our grounds with campers and begin to volunteer to help the preparation of the site, to help erect the tents and buildings. We start in May to have significant expenditures in the renting of the tents and the other expenses that go along with throwing the event. So we were on a March to May, watching carefully and closely as to what is transpiring and what kind of mitigating activities can we put in place to try to hold an event. As the timeline continued to march into the no pun intended, move into the May timeframe, we have various group of constituents that we had to measure and monitor. First of all was monitoring the virus as to what's going on there. Next was our members, who are primarily the attendees. Our volunteers, we have 5,000 volunteers that are needed to be able to throw an event of this magnitude. And again, they come from all over the world. And then our exhibitors, who is the revenue source for us on doing the exhibiting, the sponsorships, and the promotional and advertising revenues that we receive from them. And then again, what's going on in the local community. We found with the membership, as we got closer to the time frame, there was a big divide on those who felt comfortable coming to a large gathering of this size and those who did not. Our volunteers was a very similar situation. Everybody, this tradition that's gone on for over 50 years, and the commitment and community that we have at EA, they really wanted it to happen. Many of what would be referred to as at-risk volunteers because of age or underlying conditions, were slowly starting to say, we're gonna have to opt out. We just don't feel comfortable. And then a similar situation with our exhibitors. The exhibitors have everything from small local companies that produce aviation products to large companies like Airbus, Boeing, Ford Motor Company that are significant sponsors who, because of their concerns around liabilities of putting their employees at risk in manning the event, canceled on us. So as we moved into the May timeframe and it was getting ready for us to make that decision, we clearly did not feel that we had the ability to be able to put in place the necessary precautions from a distancing, sanitization, along with recognition we were going to have a less than satisfactory show for somebody that pays full boat to get through the gate because of exhibitors that had pulled out and things that just could not occur on the grounds. We did look very hard at how do you do a different version of AirVenture Oshkosh 2020. Is, can you create a smaller show? Can you move it back? And most of those answers came back from our exhibitors and volunteers is that it was pretty much it had to be in July, or they just could not accommodate a significant schedule shift. So putting all that into the decision-making cauldron, if you will, it led us to the decision of having to cancel AirVenture 2020 this year. Going forward, right now we're using the opportunity. We're trying to make lemonade out of lemons, and never, in 50 years we've never had a summer, which is a great growing season and prime time that when AirVenture goes on, which is essentially from June to August, to be able to update our grounds, get the facility in better shape, put in some new roadways, work on things that you just can't do during that peak season, and we try to do in the limited amount of spring and fall that we have to work in. So right now there's a lot of activities going on on the grounds in doing that. We're still unable and unwilling to have volunteers come in from various states to help us with that. So we've redeployed a lot of people whose functions, like the museum, since it's shut down, we can redeploy people into the facilities area to accomplish some of these upgrades and those kinds of activities on the ground, which we think will be a good thing, and to have that one single opportunity to take care of that. The question I always get asked is, okay, 2021, how does that look? We firmly believe there'll be a vaccine sometime between now and long before July of 2021 that will help relieve some of the social concern as to whether this thing's going to be a problem next year. It gives us a chance to relook at how we do things on the grounds to be a little safer, a little sanitization and those kind of items a little better than in the past. There is no concern or belief at this point in time, even if you went through this second wave scenario that they're talking about, we'd be well clear by this time next year to get things rolling. One other comment I forgot to make is in the community itself, we did also receive a lot of the people who do rent their homes out. We were getting more and more notices that they no longer felt comfortable doing that. And primarily, I believe the cause really was they didn't have a place to relocate to with all the restrictions that were being put in place. The one thing I really also wanted to give you kind of the behind the scenes look at is the leadership team here at EA. When we became a new team and my coming on board, now it's been almost 7 years ago, or full-time 5 years ago, or 6 years ago, 4 years ago. I have no idea what date it is. It's sometime during the week. We sat down and looked at building a sustainable organization that can survive many economic scenarios. One of the economic scenarios that we worked on as a team was what happens if there was no AirVenture. We've had a few scares in our history, as some of you are aware, back in, I think that was 2010 or 11, when famous was referred to as Sloshkosh, when the heavy rains just debilitated the grounds and the ability to get open the Saturday and Sunday before the event. And there was a concern as to if you had those kinds of events, would that knock you completely out? And we looked at our financials and we looked at how the organization is being run and said, for all of the years past, if an AirVenture did not occur, it would create financial destruction in the organization that possibly couldn't be recoverable. So as a team, we took on the strategic planning process that allowed us to make sure we were creating reserves year over year, that with the sole purpose and goal is if an air venture did not occur, that the organization would not be destroyed and we would be able to continue to muscle on. No bets on if they're 2 in a row were canceled, but that may happen. But I'm very proud of the leadership team at EA and the work we have done to kind of stick to our knitting of ensuring sustainability long-term for our members and for our activities that we have here year-round. We hope to get the museum back open August 1. We hope that we will be able to start getting events back into the facility. There's a lot of you may not know, but there's a significant number of weddings and events and parties and revenue that we use to help pay for the facility year-round that has been lost, and we will get that back going again later in the year. Get that rolling. We still support 800 and 900 chapters around the United States. We still are providing all of the magazines and the support. Our membership services team is answering phones 24/7 at home, and things are moving along just fine in that in those areas to keep the association vital. So the team's done a great job, I think, in the planning. The team's done a great job in how to backfill in to get through no air venture, but come out the other end better than when you went in. And financially, we are going to weather the storm with a lot of belt tightening and a lot of things that other businesses do. But we were fortunate that we had a very good strategic plan that accounted for some of that. We have some other activities that have been delayed that would have been great news for the community. Some of you have probably heard that we are fundraising and getting very close to completing the fundraising portion to be able to, we already have the design, and we're actually going to break ground in May on a major addition, a 30,000 square foot addition to our museum. 2 stories with the sole purpose of year-round aviation education, with the first floor being dedicated to flight training and flight simulation to bring pilots and people in from around the globe to be able to do on-purpose proficiency training in the number of simulators that we typically only use during air venture, but I wanted to deploy them year-round in a facility that can be accessed year-round. And the second floor was going to be dedicated to youth hands-on maker centers, which is very similar to what we have on the grounds in our Kid Venture area during air venture. So it would be a new year-round, open to schools, open to kids, to get them engaged and hands-on with STEM learning on all the kinds of things that world-class museums are doing around the world. So we're very excited about the launch of that, and that still is going to happen. It's just now becomes a timing effort as to when do we break ground. So I have yammered along for the first 15 minutes, John. I said I would leave time for the questions and answers, and please, nothing's off limits here. If there's other things I've left out that you're interested or curious in, I'd be more than happy to handle all those questions.
Great. We did have a couple come in, and they relate to each other, and apparently, which I wasn't aware of, but there's a quasi movement among pilots and around the country that even though there was a cancellation of air venture, that they may hold an unauthorized fly-in the week of air venture. Any truth to that rumor, or what's the plans if that happens?
We're very aware that that's probably the day we announced the cancellation. Again, we have such an enormous strong following. It's the Woodstock of aviation, that the first wave of social media was, well, they may be canceling it, but we're still going. We're going to be working on a communication campaign to address that, and I've been working with Jim Shell over at the airport to talk about how this is going to happen. There's a couple things that we're going to have to communicate to the people to understand. We did not pull campground permits with the state, so that we legally cannot have campgrounds that are open, and we did that to save money. So there won't be any opportunity for people to camp here, and we're not opening any facilities like restrooms or shower houses for that to accommodate that. So we have to let people know that if their intent was to come here and tie down in the grassy and go camp in Camp Scholler, it's going to be absolutely not legal technically. We also, in the areas that we lease from the airport on a 3-month aviation use, exclusive use for the 3 months during the setup, air venture, and tear down, we've had to not execute that lease with the airport. So we don't own that property. It's really the airport. So what we're trying to do is, it's Whitman Airport, it's public airport. Everybody has the rights to fly into Oshkosh and enjoy the community and tie down at Bassler and buy fuel, which we hope they do. But we're going to have to find ways to prevent this getting out of hand. Some of the Wisconsin flying groups that and the museum won't be open, so there's nothing for you to visit at EA. The Wisconsin chapters of EA, they've been talking, and I think they intend to literally just come for a day, tie down at Bassler, go downtown, grab a burger, go to one of their favorite haunts, and use it as a reason to fly and to be able to say you touched down at Oshkosh when AirVenture wasn't on. The bigger groups that I've had a lot of personal communications from individuals, there's folks out of Florida that said, hey, we still want to come and we still want to camp. And I've reached out and written to them and explained to them that here's what it's going to look like when you're here. And most of them have said, oh, okay, we didn't realize that it's there isn't going to be facilities for that to happen. So we hope we can keep this all under control.
Well, if they fly in, they have to buy a lot of hamburgers to replace $170 million of economic loss that we have here. So it's
well, price elasticity. Maybe you need to take a look at your pricing that week.
You know, now
raise the burgers.
There are other fly-ins throughout the world. EAA is certainly one of the premier ones. There's Sun and Fun down in Florida, and I think Paris Air Show and that sort of thing. What are those organizations doing in terms of their shows?
They've all canceled. This year was I think it was Farnborough, Paris. They switch every other year. They canceled early on, long before us. Sun and Fun canceled and was hoping to reschedule, and they had the same situation we did with volunteers and exhibitors not wanting to go, so they have canceled. We are hoping and promoting to the regional areas that you can try to have the smaller regionals that fit the guidelines of whatever occurs in your state at your EA chapters and get active doing that. But that's kind of the general landscape across aviation. The military jet demonstration teams have also pulled out of a lot of shows, and it's looking like right now our crystal ball doesn't have anything understood as to what's the rules of engagement beyond September.
Right. You mentioned a little bit. A lot of people use EAA, year round as a venue for special events. I think we have a couple things that we have tentatively scheduled in September. What do you view the realistic, opportunities there for events, special events, weddings, that sort of thing, really coming back in full force?
September seems to be the month that we're hoping at some level of and size that it may be possible. But, I think the problem right now is that there was the phased program that was originally laid out, and there was, some gates that we thought we kind of knew would give you the guidance as to what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. We're really kind of flying by the seat of our pants right now and trying to figure out when that is. We've made the decision on August 1 to open the museum up, and we've put in place some size limitations on the number of people, and we put in strong sanitization protocols and separation, and we're going to give it a go on August 1. The size of a wedding, that's the one we don't quite understand what's the proper. I think right now people are feeling comfortable that 50 for an event may be acceptable, maybe not. I'll tell you, this is uncharted territory and really extremely frustrating in knowing what's the proper course.
Right. For EAA, most of us community, recognize EAA as air adventure, but EAA as an organization is a year-round organization. Membership worldwide, and real passionate members. in terms of all this, COVID situation, how has the membership responded in terms of sticking with the organization, and how has EAA as an organization done more things in terms of programming to keep that energy among those passionate members of yours?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you brought it up so I can tell you about what's going on. Our membership still remains extremely strong. We went into March with 240 plus thousand members worldwide. We still are at 240,000. There's not any, we're not seeing any signs of drop off. Our chapters, we've been working with on the process of getting them online to do, they have their monthly chapter meetings and they're using Zoom. Many of them are still very, very engaged in continuing to do the things they could do, but they're just not doing them in person. But we're getting to a point where our Young Eagles program, where around the country pilots volunteer their planes and time to be able to fly people, is getting, the rules are starting to support that kind of activity, and they're staying very, very active with that. We have webinar series like everybody is doing, including yourself, John, that the attendance on those have been through the moon, where we would have two a month and they'd average 300 attendees. We're now doing 4 a month with 1,000 attendees a month. So people are staying engaged. Our members are writing in and telling us that one of their ways to cope with this from a psychological standpoint is a lot of them are in their hangars and in their garages working on their projects more than ever, and that all seems to be going strong with a lot of pent-up demand to get out and start flying again. I've been flying. I mean, I'm by myself. I'm not causing any problems, and it's great therapy.
With the passion of your members, I know pilots are a unique breed. But I would imagine you had a lot of folks on your board and within your membership that are just saying, go for it. What did you do to have to manage that expectation and people's sense of venture?
The board was not any go for it. They were unanimous on, you cannot do this. It was my decision at the end of the day. My team we presented the data and where we were and the assessments of where we were. And there's one element that I didn't talk about that I think all high value businesses, and I spent my entire life in aviation with some of the best companies in the entire world relative to aviation, and your brand is so critically important in protecting your brand. And one of the things that the board, we were all very unanimous and synced around, is making sure we did not ruin the brand. One of the examples that came up was Camp Scholler has 40,000 campers, and if it gets a reputation of becoming the Legionnaires Hotel, you may not recover long-term from that. So they did not feel the protocols were in place well enough to be one of the first to come out and find out what will actually happen as a result of something were to break out. So it was very, very unanimous. The phone calls, the letters, the people I visit as far as members, all have the same answer. The answer is, I don't know, I cannot believe not being at Oshkosh first this summer because we've been doing it for so many years. But at the same point, I'm not sure I would have come, and you guys made the right decision. So we've had fantastic support around not having it. I came to Oshkosh from Southern California, where I was raised in the 80s with my dad, who was an EA member. I was an exhibitor for 20 years, the CEO of Cessna Aircraft Company. I've never had a July from the time I was 19 until now of not spending it in Oshkosh. So that part is just an emotional attachment that people have, and they're rallying around next year. We're going to make it bigger and better than ever.
Well, I share that. I mean, I've been in Oshkosh for decades, and I know a lot of people take their vacations during that time. I think, we fully enjoy that time because you have people from all over the world, coming into Oshkosh. I mean, you go to a restaurant and you see somebody from Germany or, name a country sitting next to you, and you pick up a conversation with them. It's just fascinating to hear people's stories, and they come back year after year after year. And it's just going to be an odd July here. And really, when you think about it, it's, the airs start coming alive, early July already with aircraft and volunteers coming in in May. and that sort of thing. So you see that fabric of that part of the organization not involved with the community, and that's to me it's hard to take for a lot of folks. So.
It's rough. It's really rough. And like you said, the stories go on that are just fantastic about the bond between the people that come here and the business people. You sit with Wolfie at Roxy, and he's got friends for life that he's made that he fishes with that have come from all over the world. It's just a part of our fabric of our culture in the community here at Oshkosh is around those people that come that week.
Well, and those convention goers just adopted Oshkosh. I mean, worldwide Oshkosh is synonymous with EAA and aviation, and it's part of their lives, and it's their community, it's their broader community. So it's going to be different. Question, you talked about outlook for 2021. You got high expectations. I mean, a lot of people are expecting, every year you outdo yourself, and every year it gets bigger and better, and the quality is always been great. So how are you going to outdo yourself next year? I mean,
well, we were on plan to outdo ourselves this year. We had the Canadian Snowbirds that were going to perform, which is always a good crowd favorite. And unfortunately, they canceled before we actually made the decision. We're already in the planning mode. We think that we'll be able to offer what the leadership team here has worked so hard on is trying to create as much diversity of what people are here to see. So everything from the warbirds to the vintage, the experimental to space, the different forums, the different lectures that go on, create an environment that if you came in as a family, there would be something for everyone that would spark their interest and imagination. And we've really done quite well at that. And we have got commitments to pretty much everything we've lined up for 2020 is going to re-roll into 21. Our exhibitors and sponsors are all rolling their contracts into 21. So we're feeling we're really loading up the boat quickly here with assurance that 2021 is going to be another knockout year.
And any possibility of extending the length of the Air Venture next year? More days?
We debate. We discuss with this all the time, and the debate is, it used to be much longer at one point in time. I think it was in the 80s. It was an extra three days on it. We do have a problem on the last Sunday where exhibitors are trying to get out of here. Primarily, the exhibitors are telling us no, they are not going any longer. It's a significant expense. I mean, literally, I spent millions at Cessna for a 1 week event. By the time I did the booth, the displays, the hotels, the houses, the employees, the staff. But the thing that you could walk away feeling good about was the return was phenomenal. I would sell an incredible number of airplanes. I launched one airplane in 2003 and took 1,000 deposits at AirVenture that year. So the economics on that worked. But they're saying there's a point where you can go too far on this. So we think we've got it balanced just appropriately. Where while it starts officially on a Monday and ends on a Sunday, it's gotten to be that Sunday everybody's arriving and Saturday people are wandering around still looking at stuff. So we're going to stick with that formula.
Yeah, it certainly works. You mentioned earlier a little bit about the museum expansion. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Oh, I'd love to. I wish I had a diagram, but it's to the south end of the museum. We're going to create a separate entrance, and it's going to be a 2-story facility that is very, very modern, very exciting. That it's going to have a long life architectural look to it. Very inviting, very techy. Hope to get kids very excited about wanting to come and spend time on that second floor where they'll have the hands-on rooms to do things that engage not only their mind but their hands, which was the philosophy Paul had in starting EAA. That was very, very important, and we'll have educators in creating those experiences for young people. The simulator center with about 12 simulators that will be active full time is another. There is no other location in the U.S. that would have that kind of proficiency training. So what we're hoping is that by having that venue year round, we'll get groups from the Bonanza Society, the different type clubs, the different organizations that of subgroups of EAA will want to come, stay in the hotels, use the facility to do 2-day, 3-day, 4-day currency training and get them into the community year round. So that's the collateral benefit of what we're trying to do. And then two, to be able to offer not only for the state of Wisconsin, but the surrounding areas, a venue for young people to come and experience education, STEM education that also touches aviation.
Well, engaging young people in aviation is, I think a mainstay. So a lot of the things that EAA has done. How's the Young Eagles program going?
It's still kind of a cornerstone and mainstay of what we do. We've flown over 2 million kids. It's still very, very active. Some of these other programs that we're putting in place is to answer the question, while we are very proud of what's transpired with the Young Eagle program, we're putting a bunch of new programs in place that answer the question of, okay, so now I took that flight, now what's next? That's great. You got me excited. You whet my appetite about it. Where can I go from here? That program that we're rolling out, which has been funded, called Aero Educate, is going to be an online access for the young person that took the flight, their parents, educators, so that they have access to curriculum, and it's going to be able to then guide them through pathways and learning in a badging program that will hopefully get them from that flight. Say it's a flight's at age 9, we've got to get them and hold them until they can start learning to fly at age 15 or 16. And we need those kinds of educational activities to be filled in where they live, in front of them, on their phone, on their iPad, or on their computer. We have a partnership with Embry-Riddle along with South Carolina State, who is developing the web-based and the curriculum associated with that. Our intent was to roll it out in July of this year. We'll probably roll it out September of this year. But it's one of those missing ingredients of, I've had that experience, but how do I stay, how do I keep a young person, if you're their parent or their teacher or their mentor, keep them completely engaged so they can fulfill that dream that they had.
We just launched a rocket into outer space last week. SpaceX, I think it's called.
It was.
Any thoughts or comments about that?
Oh, I mean that. I felt like I grew up in the town that the Apollo capsule was built. So in elementary school, field trips to North American to look at that, and we kind of grew up in that space age. I was glued to the TV like a little kid again watching that, and I think on many fronts it's a very exciting change from a complete government program to a partnership between NASA and the private sector, which is so important in being able to do the space exploration more cost efficiently, with higher levels of technology on a faster pace than you can roll out through a normal a NASA space program. So the success of that is, I think, just the first step of, now where are we going to go next? It was flawlessly executed on all aspects, and here we go. Is it to the moon next, or where are we? Hopefully that also is going to rekindle the generations that did not participate in watching the space race occur, to get them again back interested in these high-paying, highly technical, highly exciting field for education and employment.
A question, and part of the reason I asked is my nephew's a pilot for Delta. How is the still struggling? Are they still struggling getting commercial airline pilots?
The pilot shortage has been enormous. I think we got about an 18-month setback now that the airlines their load factors are so low, and there's going to be a lot of furloughing of pilots in the meantime. But it's one industry that you have a mandatory retirement age 65. So over this next period of time, while there may be pilots furloughed, there's going to be people going out at the top, aging out over the next 2 years. And so when the furloughs come back, they're going to be right back in the same boat with the need for pilots. And the pay scales now for pilots is very, very lucrative. Makes for a much better career than it was when they were only paying regional pilots at very, very low wages. I still believe, I was doing some reading and researching in Aviation Week magazine that did a really in-depth analysis on what's happening to the airlines today. And they the demand and the reasons for flying is not going away. The airlines have got to get their marketing act together to convince people they're going to take care of the environment. Even if they just don't sell the center seats, they'd be better off than where they are today. It will come back because we're all addicted to the getting from here to Disney World or go see grandma or at a reasonable price. So it will be back, and the forecasts are that by 2021, end of 2021, we'll be close to 2019 levels of commercial flying, and that by 2022 we'll be back growing again.
Well, we're all anxiously awaiting going back to normal, and
Yes, we are.
this is everyone's talking about new normal. I don't want the new normal. I want the normal, and to me, the new normal is abnormal. So we hope to see that again very soon. So we're nearing the end of our time. Jack, really appreciate you joining us. Great insight. We appreciate the candor and sharing with us that decision-making process, because I know it wasn't easy for anybody over there, and it was a tough decision. It was a tough decision that you guys had to make, and certainly a tough one for the community. So and we just wish you all the best and wish you well as you move forward. So thank you again for joining us. For our audience, we're changing it up a little bit next week. We're still doing a virtual town hall, but it's going to be on Wednesday, June 10th. We're going to have the leadership team of our Amplify Oshkosh Consortium online. There's going to be 7 of them, so there'll be a lot of discussion about IT, trends in terms of emerging information technology. So be looking for that. Again, thank you all for joining us. And again, Jack, thanks for joining us, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your support.
All right, thank you.